DeAndre Swift was a surprise addition to the Wednesday injury report, and the Buccaneers have an extremely banged-up receiving core. I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Thursday, September 15th, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Starting at quarterback officially in Week 2 is the Jets' Joe Flacco. Flacco will remain the Jets' starting quarterback in Week 2 against the Browns. That's per coach Robert Saleh. Now, Flacco was terrible in Week 1, but that's what happens when he drops back over 60 times. He mostly checked the ball down to running backs Michael Carter and Breece Hall, who combined for 19 targets. Flacco's 59 throws in Week 1 were the most of any quarterback, but his average depth of target on non-screen throws was 6.8 yards downfield, the lowest of Week 1. Now, Carter ran 28 routes to Breece Hall's 27, so both are viable PPR flexes in the interim, though we would hope the Jets have Flacco throwing less in Week 2 than they did in Week 1. Meanwhile, in the receiving core for the Jets, Elijah Moore is the clear number one. Moore ran a route on 89% of Flacco's dropbacks, and by the way, that's a lot of routes because he dropped back a gajillion times, while Corey Davis was at 68% and Garrett Wilson was at 56%. Braxton Berrios mixed in for 47%. So the only usable guy here is Moore until further notice because they have kind of a three-man rotation going otherwise. As for Flacco starting for the injured Zach Wilson, well, we knew Zach Wilson was going to be out. He's not eligible to return until Week 5. But the conspiracy-minded among us might think that the Jets had to announce Flacco as the starter because they don't want to play cult favorite Mike White in the event White plays well and gets the fan base to turn on Zach Wilson. We won't go there yet, though. Now, Wilson did return to practice on Wednesday and went through some light work as he works his way back from his August knee injury. As I already said, he's eligible to play in Week 5. In our first running back spot, we hope to have DeAndre Swift. Now, Swift did not practice on Wednesday because of an ankle injury. Neither Swift nor Dan Campbell, coach of the Lions, insinuated anything was wrong following Detroit's Week 1 loss to the Eagles, a game in which Swift was awesome as PFF's highest graded back of the week. But here's what Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press wrote on Twitter, quote, "Went back and watched the end of the Detroit-Philly game. Swift was in, played the last offensive play, did seem a little hobbled running a route on second to last snap," end quote. Obviously, that's Twitter shorthand, but you get the idea. Now, Swift was dominant in Week 1, so if anything happened, it was indeed at the end of the game. For what it's worth, Burkett caught Swift in the Lions locker room on Wednesday, and Swift said that the ankle is, quote, "not at all," end quote, a concern for his game day status against the Commanders in Week 2. Hopefully, Swift is back out there and practicing on Thursday. But if not, we have to seriously consider Jamal Williams on the RB2 radar. Swift, meanwhile, averages 19.4 fantasy points per game over his last 11 healthy contests. Those are top 5 running back numbers. It's just that the injury bug has constantly bitten him. Our other running back spot goes to someone returning from injury. The Seahawks' Ken Walker logged a full practice on Wednesday as he makes his way back from inguinal hernia surgery. Though we often have to take Pete Carroll's words with a grain of salt the size of the Hope Diamond, this does track with what Carroll told reporters on Tuesday. Now, Walker missed a good chunk of August as he recovered from the hernia, but having Walker available in Week 2 or Week 3 puts him right on track for recovery time from such a procedure. He'll slide in as the backup to Rashad Penny once he's available, though Penny's own injury history could make Walker a league-winning asset at some point. Penny was used as a borderline bell cow in Week 1, playing 69% of the offensive snaps and getting 15 opportunities against the Broncos. Travis Homer played 35% of the snaps, but logged just 1 carry. One would imagine Walker will get more run than that. In our first wide receiver spot, we officially will not have Keenan Allen tonight. The Chargers have ruled out Allen for Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs. Now, we would say that this is a boost to Mike Williams. By the way, Allen's dealing with a hamstring injury, just so you know that. I would say this is a boost to Mike Williams, who averages over 20 fantasy points per game in his career without Allen. but he was a ghost on Sunday, even without Allen for much of the game. Williams is notoriously streaky, though, and the Chargers desperately need him to have a big game against the Chiefs. In Allen's absence, Josh Palmer played 75% of the snaps in week 1, and in the lone game that Keenan Allen missed in 2021, Palmer filled in beautifully. He had a 87% snap share, 5 catches and 66 yards with a touchdown while playing Allen's slot role. It was a win against the Giants. Now, complicating matters for Palmer, though, is the Chargers have added DeAndre Carter to the mix, and he also could be a popular, cheap DFS option, especially for those playing single game slates tonight. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, the Chiefs placed rookie corner, Trent McDuffie on IR with a hamstring injury. Now, McDuffie was playing well in his NFL debut before getting injured. His absence is obviously a boost to the Charger receiving group, what's left of it at least, and will be a boost to over-bettors and fantasy prospects for Chiefs games, as if we weren't excited enough about Chiefs games already in those regards. By the way, the Chiefs are expected to have the services of wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster in this game, who missed some practice time this week with a shoulder injury. That's notable because the Chargers could get cornerback J.C. Jackson in for his team debut on Thursday night. Earlier this week, Charger coach Brandon Staley told reporters that his star corner was 50-50 to play on Thursday as he recovers from an ankle injury. Now, Jackson didn't practice on Monday, but was limited on Tuesday and Wednesday, so it appears to us like that was an accurate assessment from Staley. If Jackson can play on Thursday night, that will be a big boost to the Chargers defense that already gave the Raiders hell in week 1 without Jackson. The Chiefs' primary outside receivers, by the way, in week 1 were Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, though the Chiefs moved them all around, with both of those guys also logging double-digit slot routes. At our other wide receiver spot, the Buccaneers are banged up everywhere. Tampa Bay has 7 wide receivers on its 53-man roster. 5 of those 7 were on Wednesday's injury report. Chris Godwin and Russell Gage didn't practice with hamstring injuries. Julio Jones didn't practice with a knee injury. Mike Evans was limited with a calf injury, while Brashad Perriman was limited with a knee injury. Now, we know Godwin will miss multiple weeks with his hamstring ailment. Gage himself has been limited by hamstring injury since early August. He played just 26 snaps in his week 1 Bucs debut, catching 2 passes for 13 yards. The question is if this was a rest day because the Bucs are being cautious with all their receivers, or if there was a setback here for Gage. The big additions to the injury report are Evans and Jones, of course. Now, Evans has a history of soft tissue injuries, but mostly hamstring issues. He plays hurt often and often plays well through injuries. Moreover, the Bucs have every reason to be cautious about him, given they'll be down Godwin for a number of weeks. But complicating matters this week for Evans is that he historically has struggled against Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints, catching just 9 of 18 targets in 5 games against the Saints with Tom Brady at quarterback, including playoffs. Though 3 of those 9 catches in the 5 games have gone for touchdowns. Presuming Evans does play, he's a downgrade this week because of matchup, but likely too difficult to sit. As for Julio, his documented list of injuries throughout his illustrious career make him look like the Operation board game. But knee issues have not really been a problem for him. It's entirely possible he is just dealing with some discomfort and the Bucs want to protect him, given the state of the rest of the receiving corps. Now, presuming he plays, Julio will be a wide receiver 3 with some upside when the Bucs take on the Saints in week 2, with Evans likely dealing with Lattimore's coverage. New Orleans, meanwhile, could be down cornerback Paulson Adebo with an ankle injury, which would be a big boost to Julio. Adebo didn't play in week 1. In our flex spot, we have good news on T. Higgins. Coach Zach Taylor indicated that Higgins is making good progress through the NFL's concussion protocol, and the star wideout was limited at practice on Wednesday, Ben Baby of ESPN.com reports. Now, concussions are obviously fickle, but Higgins already being a limited participant on Wednesday is a positive sign for his ability to make it through the protocol in time for the Bengals' Week 2 game in Dallas. Now, continue to watch the practice reports, but this is obviously a good sign. I'm Joe Dolan, and this has been the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup, which will air every Tuesday through Friday during the 2022 NFL season. Now, remember to like this video. Just hit the thumbs up down at the bottom. Subscribe to the Fantasy Points channel. Write some comments. Give us some love. You'll get all of our videos, and they'll be pushed right to you if you subscribe. And as the injuries from week 1 remind you, your fantasy roster is never complete. At fantasypoints.com, our mission is to help you score more fantasy points. If you're looking for the best waiver, trade, and start sit advice, our standard package covers you just perfectly. But if you like to bet, you like to play DFS, you're going to want the premium package. Whatever the case, use the code lineup22 for a 10% off discount on any package. And any package gets you access to our subscriber Discord, which gives you a direct line to me and the rest of our staff. Now, just make sure you enjoy the game tonight, everyone. And join me tomorrow morning as we'll wrap up the week.